It is 7:30 and the building committee meeting will start. Item 2.1, review discussion of naming portable in memory of Chief Richard Williams, U.S. Navy, retired.
So we have asked Chief Wilson to join us. Chief
Can-
Williams, I'm sorry, Chief
Can I
Wilson.
make a recommendation before we go on, Mr. Williams? And I'm sorry, it always seems like I cut you off, and I don't, but actually,
Chief
Mr.
Wilson.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. Williams. Williams.
We are honoring Williams. This is Chief Wilson.
Chief Wilson,
Who's
okay.
going to present.
Chief Wilson, my apologies for that. But can we please take, before we continue with this, can we please take maybe a 2-3 minute break? So that I know that people need to come and go, and that way we're all here and we can listen to the
I have
presentation.
no problem. 7:31, we'll take a break.
Okay, please. One more time.
Take 6.
You want to introduce him again, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. This evening, we do have Chief Wilson, who will be discussing the possibility of naming of portable unit number 1 in memory of Chief Richard Williams, USN retired. Sir, if you don't mind.
Board members, Intern Superintendent, ma'am, I can't say your name, so I'm just going to call you Mrs. S because I don't want you to be too mad at me. Board members, I appreciate your time with this. As if you read what I wrote up, Chief Richard Williams not only served our country for over 20 years in a difficult time in our history, but then he decided not to put his uniform away, and he served as an NJROTC instructor in a community that he's not from. I was honored to meet him while I was still on active duty in 2011. He became a focal point for advice and multiple things as chiefs take care of each other, whether it doesn't matter if we're still on active duty or retired. And time again, I saw the admiration that the students and how they looked up to him. And I remember when he was diagnosed with cancer, he didn't quit. A chief doesn't quit. Our anchor stands for unity, service, and navigation. And that's what we live our lives for. We live our lives for service over self. And I remembered up until almost to the day that he passed, he would even come in with a chemotherapy pump on, and you would hear it turn on, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's RoboCop time." But the kids knew it was bothering him, but he still did his job. And unfortunately, he lost his battle to cancer. But he came to work that day, and he took care of his cadets. He did what a chief does. He takes care of his people. And he went home and he locked his door, and unfortunately, he passed to his illness. Wow. 7 years has passed since then, and I was honored and very thankful to become a JROTC instructor in this school district. And I'm the only instructor working that still knows him or remembers him. I know there are a lot of people here in the district. I know Mrs. Gonzalez shares fond memories. I know that Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Galvan. I actually get called Chief Williams a lot. I just stopped kind of correcting people because we were both bald and white, but that's okay. But I still talk to his daughter, and she is humbled that our cadets remember him. Every year we run the Relay for Life. Of course, during COVID, we couldn't. We raised money under his name for the American Cancer Society, and everything goes under his name to them. We're also doing that again already this year. I think this is an honorable way to remember somebody that wasn't, even though they weren't from our community, to remember, because he founded our community service. And when our students say the backbone of San Benito, it's just not something cool to say. It's something that we mean. It's a way to remember Chief and what he founded with our canned food drive, with cleaning up the Resaca, with cleaning up the highway, with doing new things, getting our kids involved, making sure that they knew the opportunities that were afforded with them, whether they decided to go to college, go into the career force, or also the military. And I think that is an honorable thing to do, to remember him. Like I said, even though he's not from our community, but still to have community members, and I'm not from San Benito, if anyone hasn't figured that out yet, but the Valley's my home, because the Valley's opened their arms to me, just like they did with Chief Williams. And to still have members of your community, after so many years, remember him, and the kind things that I hear them say, time and time again, I think this is an honorable way. And I think it's also a good way to let our past cadets know that had Chief Williams, that his legacy hasn't died, and he still lives on.
I have a comment. Chief Williams was a great guy. He did his job, and I applaud him for that. And he died peacefully, and I remember Chief Williams. And what portable are you talking about here? What's the portable?
So a few years ago, and please forgive me, when we changed the belt, when we went to a 45-minute class schedule, we were originally at VMA, which was great, but that schedule didn't work with our upperclassmen. So we moved over to the main campus, and since then we've stayed, and which has been very beneficial when it comes to our ninth, 10th, our high school, our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and keeping them interested in the program. When we originally moved over, Mr. Sanchez, who was the principal at that time, put us into the old portables, which is beside cosmetology, which is kind of fitting because that's basically where JROT started in the school district originally. Last year, Mr. Ramirez, when he always sees all the hard work that we put in, but he wanted something better for us, and he moved our classes into M Hall in the science wing, gave us more space. It works out really well, and we've changed. Then we made the next step, and the old portable classroom became our marksmanship range, and we're also going to share it with the archery class. It's a multi-purpose room. It's not just for us. And I approached him saying, I think this would be very befitting to name this after Chief Williams, because I did know him. I remember him telling me how much he actually enjoyed shooting. That was his best day of his job, when he got to take the kids on the marksmanship range. And I thought that would be a good opportunity to do that.
My concern is, do we sell the portables, or can we name them as name?
Well, sometimes we do remove them.
Yeah.
And
that's my
so,
concern.
I don't know if that would be the most appropriate building. I do want to say something about Chief Williams. I went in from elementary principal, they moved me from an elementary principal position all the way to a VMA principal position. I'd always been with the little ones. And Chief Williams was always in a good mood, always positive, always willing to lend a hand. And if I was there until 8 o'clock at night, I would bump into him most of the time, and he really gave a lot of himself to our students, to our children, and to this district. And so I feel that we should name
Something
a
else.
part of a building.
Yeah,
or
I agree.
Veterans Memorial is actually where he was located when I was there.
I agree.
And that would be also appropriate.
More fitting.
Is there a policy that we do abide with, or?
We'd have to look.
There is a policy and it requires some committee input and a couple of meetings, and we can look into that and get the exact process that we need to do for building naming.
And so you all know the reason why I was kind of pushing forward with this is also the unit's 20th anniversary. And NJROTCs do come and go. They do. And this program's worked very, very hard, and we followed on the heels. And that's something that I've taken near and dear to my heart. And that's why I was trying to push to get something named after him
This year.
This year.
Okay.
with the portable. And I just thought it was befitting. I understand reading the local policies. I know that it can be difficult. And I know that can sometimes people take that, and trust me, as a veteran, I love the freshman campus name. I mean,
Chief, when is the 20th?
it is this actual
This
school
year.
year's our 20th anniversary. That's why I thought it would be befitting. It's been a very busy year. It wasn't something that we gaffed off, but one of the things is I wanted to see how the marksmanship range actually came out once maintenance got done with it, and it came out very nice.
Mr. Vion, can you look into it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So it is CW Local, and I'll go ahead and email you the details of that.
Appreciate
Perfect.
that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chief
Any other
Williams.
questions from the board? Concerns?
No.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So, Chief Wilson,
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering something. It's not necessarily about the emotional attachment of this building, right? Was there something specific about that building, or,
No, ma'am.
we
I
can
just,
look at other options?
you want to ask me anything about the Navy, I got you all day long. I can answer
Yeah.
so much stuff. I was a police officer, I was a boot camp instructor, a recruiter, I'm an anti-terror, I can answer all kinds of stuff. Reading the local policy, knowing where I grew up in North Carolina, I'm a military child. I know naming buildings can be a heated contest. It's just, I thought there's no brand new buildings coming up, and I thought that would be befitting, because it's also a JROTC space. And was my thought process behind it. From my understanding, the old cosmetology building, I believe was, and I'm only going off of old pictures that I found, was the original
What's
space,
the original?
I believe. So the portables weren't even there. M-Hall wasn't even there. So I think the portables used to be some type of after-school program, and then it was part of the police department, and then we took them over when we moved over to the campus. So I just thought that it would be a befitting space until maybe later on down the road, depending on, how the district moves, maybe change. I understand the portables do come and go.
Yeah.
But maintenance, I will tell you, maintenance put a lot of work that is greatly appreciated by the instructors and the students into that building. So I do see the life on it for a little while.
Quick question, Chief. Where at VMA was he located? What part of VMA?
The JROTC classrooms
Yeah.
were behind the gym.
Behind the gym?
So in the bus loading area, when you step off,
Okay,
there's a door
okay.
that says San Benito, it still says San Benito and
Okay,
JROTC,
okay.
and we have a classroom in there.
All right.
Wait, Mr. Pettis, did you want to add something?
Yes, ma'am, if I may. It's not about maintenance, supporting what they've done in the building. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Mr. Moreno, Mr. Villon. So what they wanted to do was to remodel. We did the remodel. We took everything apart inside the facility. We made it much better for the students to be able to use it as a shooting range. Traveling to VMA was an issue because obviously the kids had to travel all the way down there, and then I was transporting them back. So the principal got with me and says, "Hey, Mr. Perez, what can we do with the facility?" And obviously Chief asked, "Can we make that into a shooting range?" I can do whatever you want. Just let me know what the parameters are, or we'll update it, and we've done that. There's some work outside still remaining to do. Obviously, time has been some of the challenges we've had because we have to do other stuff as well. But we're about to finish that to make it where it'll look very nice. So if that's an option that the board wants to consider, obviously we can address it and make it even nicer from the outside because it does need a paint job. Obviously, it needs a little bit of dressing up in the front. But we can certainly take care of that. I don't think that'd be an issue for that purpose. Then later on, if the board decides they want to name another building in the future or even go to VMA, we can address that as well so we can start doing the prep work of what we need to order to make sure that the building has the proper name and so on and so forth. So the dedication comes into play. That's all I just want to say.
I think that
Thank
would
you,
be a
Mr.
great
Pettis.
idea to finish it off and, finish painting or whatever needs to be done on the outside. That's a great idea, and thank you to all the maintenance employees that have taken care of this, Mr. Perez, you as well, and Mr. Wilson for doing this, for your colleague, and for Chief Williams. And thank you also for all the hard work that you do with our kids, because I know the benefits of these programs for our kids. I'm getting teary because I'm remembering kids when I was a counselor at Miller Jordan, and they had the LOTC program there, and a lot of the kids that got in it, it really helped them out, So thank you for everything you do for our kids.
Thank you. I don't do it for me, I do it for the kids. It's an example.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much,
All
sir.
right, thank you very much.
So do we agenda item or we're gonna wait for the policy? Agenda item? Agenda item. 2.2, presentation by Breeden Group on construction projects.
We have invited Mr. Palacios and his team to discuss the process of any of our projects that we have going on with them. Sir, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Ms. Bettis. Superintendent Sevidion, welcome, board members. Joseph Palacios with Brighton Group. I do have other representatives in the room. I have Tony with Davila Construction. We have Tommy Canu, Davila Construction. We have Horacio with Davila Construction, as well as we have Cesar with Rofa Architects. So we're all here to present on the construction update to the Performing Arts and the Natatorium. A bit of a navigation I did provide, and don't get scared by the manual, but really what I'm going over, we simplified it by a PowerPoint presentation which is listed on the front. Everything in the back is what you already have in the all the supporting documents that we've already submitted as of the 1st of April. But I'll start on our presentation. So we're going to do a bit of a highlight just on January and February of 2022. And then we'll roll into the March 22 report. Our last time of being here was in December. Obviously, construction has been ongoing every day, every week. This is a representation of all the different consulting firms that are on these two projects, and all have been heavily participating throughout the design phase and as well as the construction phase. Next page. That is the rendering of your performing arts. You've seen this before. Since then, obviously, we're in construction now. Next slide. This is a layout, and it's just for familiarity's sake, for Ms. Savillon, Superintendent. You do have a performing arts that has a 1,000-seat auditorium with a balcony seating with a full performance stage. Total square feet on this building is 51,303 square feet. On your first floor, you have 28,102, and on the second floor, which you have a balcony that overlooks in the performance auditorium of 23,201 square feet. You do have performance lighting, curtains, audio, video packages for the auditorium. There are 3 sets of bathrooms that are in this building. You have the front of house lobby bathrooms. You have back of stage or back of house. And then you do have a set of bathrooms in the second floor balcony area. So your patrons that do go to the future performing arts, they'll be able to go to the bathroom facilities on the second floor. You do have multiple staircases and an elevator access. There are 2 flex rooms that are going to be in this facility, and they're full performance flex rooms. They'll have performance flooring, acoustical walls, AV, audio video infrastructure, and a combined square feet of 6,102. There is a grand lobby to this performing arts facility, totaling 5,213 square feet, support offices and dress rooms, scene shop staging area, back of house lounge and locker rooms, multiple storage rooms, and delivery and loading docks, control rooms and mechanical rooms as well. On the next slide, these are images from our January, in the month of January, and I'll summarize it. We did have on-site meetings with all teams, construction team, design team, and our group. Those 2 OAC meetings in January 12th and January 26th. And then in February, it's February 9th and the 23rd. Basically, the OAC meetings is to discuss every submittal, every request of information, and anything and everything that has to do with the construction project. In the month for project submittals, we had a total of 15 in January and 29 in February. Submittals are basically all of the components to the buildings. Submittals will come in even for your theatrical seats, of which you see an example right here. And all other type of technical materials that are going to be installed at this facility. We did have challenges in the month of January and February. There were significant rain days. If you could just look at the photo, you can see ponding water at the exterior of the pad site. In January, we did have the 21st, 24th, 25th, and 26th. In February, we had the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 13th, and 14th. So February was a very challenging period for us and the Davila Group. For payment applications, in the month of January, we did have pay application 4 for a total of $226,737.56, and in February, pay application number 5 for $171,592.76. All pay applications are reviewed and certified by our design architects, and then we attest at Brighton Group. We reviewed as well, no different. Part of the checks and balances just to make sure everything can be certified and then processed by San Benito CISD. There have been no allowances or contingency expenditures for those months. Some work performed. As you can see, all the trenching at the pad site had been done. So at that point, there were 75% in Section A, 50% in Section B, and these are just some of the scopes that were done from the foundation work all the way into rough-in plumbing and rough-in electrical. If you go on to the next one, in February, construction at Advance, as you can see the vapor barrier, and you see more of the construction progressing. If we go on to the next slide. Now, for the month of March, at this point, from the financial standpoint, we're 6.28% complete. Obviously, we're going into April, so there is a new pay application since February with the lag of March with rain days. Has been significant progress on the projects. We have had our first pour in on March 10th. That was the first day of the pour where they poured the front lobby bathrooms as well as both of the flex rooms. We have had our OAC meetings on March 9th and March 23rd. As you can see, that is a picture of the March 10th pour. At that time, I believe we went up to about 420 yards of concrete on that pour. Pours start on that day started at 4 a.m. I think we finally had wrapped up somewhere about mid-afternoon, and then the finishing later that day, probably about 5. Submittals 18 and RFIs over 14 for this month. Again, we're registering rain days, bad weather days, 17 days to date. For payment application for March of 2022, we have $354,355.78. And again, no allowance expenditures or contingency expenditures at this point. Again, work in progress. Here's another image. You'll see, again, the front portion of that pad site, cement pad site. You can see the bathroom, you can see the rough-in plumbing, and then those are the 2 flex rooms that had been poured on March 10th. If we go to the next image, CMU block has been delivered on site. It's been laid out, although and you'll see in some of the pictures, they've already laid it out on the perimeters of the bathroom as well as the flex rooms. Some of the milestones in March. We've had meetings with the city of San Benito, city manager, Mr. De La Rosa, and Mr. Fred Bell. We've been finalizing the review process of the vertical construction plans as well as the civil plans as well. We did have a second pour, was April 1st, which was just a few days ago. That we focused on the back of house bathrooms as well as the delivery area. And that's an image of that. That day, we started at 2 a.m., and I think the last truck went out somewhere about 8 or 9 in the morning, finishing probably mid-afternoon. And then you'll see additional images, if you can go to the next. That's the back of house bathrooms, you'll see them there, and the loading area. All the phases in Davila will cover it. Has to be done. All the pours have to be done in phases as we go through that. Next pour, we're looking at the rigging pit, which is the middle section in the middle. It doesn't look like that anymore. They started forming that area, and the elevator pit. We're anticipating later this week to do that pour for the performing arts. Next image, we did have Robert Kistner doing all the geotech work on site. Those are the 2 different at different pours. Those are the cylinders that they captured. They all get tested, and they got their various test dates where we check back. I want to commend Robert Kistner. They pre-check every cement truck that goes there, and if it does not meet, they send the truck back. And just to give you an example, there was about 6 trucks sent back to Kappa just because the texture of the concrete was either too dry or too wet. So they're doing a phenomenal job on site. So we don't pour, or a truck doesn't enter the site unless it's checked by our geotech consulting engineers. And those are the examples of those test cylinders. We do have some action items for the performing arts. We'd like to set up a meeting with the district to discuss and review the project sample board. That is a sample board that ROFA Architects has put together. It's going to be all the finishes, colors. It's that time. It's a little overdue on a few weeks just because of the transition of Dr. Carmen rolling out and entering. We're excited to set this meeting soon so we can start going over it. The architects obviously will be presenting to the district as well as our team. And at that time, we'll take in comments, suggestions, and start looking at that. But we'd like to set that meeting relatively soon. We are also needing to do the license agreement with the drainage district. On the civil plans, we are looking at proposing to do on-site drainage, the detention facility. It will be very helpful to cover some of the civil elements at this point in time, so that we can make sure that we can kind of preserve the site. So if in fact we do get rains, we're able to at least have the proper facilities. We do have swells on site. They work fairly well. But we just think that added infrastructure in that with the appropriate outfall will be very critical on just keeping that water away from the site. So we do have the application for the license agreement. The Drainage District number 3 has already approved our plans, and all it is the paperwork for the license agreement. So we have it ready. We'll present it to the district and process it accordingly. We are currently working with AEP. We did get them the CAD files. ROFA was kind enough to provide them to us so that they can do their final electrical layouts so that we can get the final power transformers at least ordered. It's a long lead item, so we're trying to get ahead of it so that we can have permanent power on site. We continue working with all the teams on all their submittals in hopes that we can kind of resolve all get all the submittals out and answer all the RFIs as soon as possible. We are anticipating the next OAC meeting. It's actually tomorrow, so we'll be on site at the trailer. All meetings are on site. Upcoming milestones, as I said, we are anticipating 2 additional pours very soon coming in for the rigging pit and the elevator pit. That I have nothing else on the pack, and I'll move into the natatorium, and then we can follow up on questions, any questions you all have. On the natatorium, again, we are going, it's a concurrent construction, so they're both happening at the same time, although they're very different buildings altogether. Mr.
Palacios, can I stop you real
Sure.
quick? Can you go back one slide, just one, that previous slide?
Yes, sir.
So that I'm looking at, in my opinion, has it changed drastically as far as that?
No, it has not at all. The only thing that changed on that is the wave between that building and the performing arts. There was a segment that crossed between buildings that had been eliminated out on the value engineering when we were looking at reducing the budget, but that is still in the building. Tony, yeah?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that is your rendering for your natatorium. It is 19 square feet enclosed facility. It's an 8-lane competition pool with ADA features, and you can see the ADA features on the far north side. It does have a diving well with 2 boards and a warm water pool with an ADA ramp feature. And I want to thank the board for really jumping out and really wanting to make sure that warm-up pool was included in it. It's a really good design in which you can actually wheel in some of your ADA students or whoever's visiting the site into the warm-up pool for better access rather than the lift. You do have a lobby and control desk, offices and bathrooms, locker rooms with bathrooms, storage room, and a mechanical room. Next page. That is the excavation of the pool. You can see the warm-up pool on the far north side. You can see where the diving well is going to be, as well as where the ADA is on the south side. We did, on the OAC meetings, we do handle the performing arts first, and then we roll into the natatorium. Those are the respective meetings that we did have in January and February. Project submittals, they're much less because it's not as complex as the performing arts. So we had 4 in January, 22 in February. On RFIs, we had 2 in January and 1 in February. Rain delays are the same. It's the same site, same weather. So those are all the rain days. As you can see as you're seeing the pictures, they're advancing from January into February. So you're going to see the site changing a bit. Pay application 4 was in January for $40,880.30. In February, it's $145,945.77. Again, all pay applications are reviewed and certified by ROFA architects, and we attest them by going through them as well, no different, and then they're processed by the district. Again, no allowance expenditures or contingency expenditures. Work performed in January, it's very visual, all the excavation. There is dewatering happening. We were very fortunate on the excavation that we were clear. Most thought we would hit the water table much sooner. We didn't. But once we got to the bottom, then that's where the ground seepage happens. So we anticipated it, Davila has, there is a line item for dewatering. So they continue to dewater as they do the construction process. We are looking at probably going a little more aggressive when they're starting to do the bedding and actually the pole liner. So, they'll explain it best, but we're looking at some well systems and really hitting it aggressively so that we can maintain the schedule on the construction of the natatorium. But just a way of construction, you're going to hit water at some point, water table, anywhere you build a pool, especially with the diving wall. But things are looking good. If it wasn't for the rain, it would be much better. We have the rough-in electrical has been in, and rough-in plumbing, and the assembly of the filtration system as well. The gravel bedding is on site, and you'll see it in other pictures. Next page. For the month of March, we're at 13.54%. Original contract was $8.8 million. Nothing has changed at all. The pay application number 6 was for $145,945.77, and then we are pending application number 7. We do, again, are recognizing 7 current rain days or bad weather days.
Mr.
next-
Palacios, can just, you know that we're not, that, at least I'm not gonna speak for we, I say, I'm not an expert. Can you, what I have in my mind as far as what dewatering means, can you tell me what that means?
And I'll share, and thank you for that question. So anywhere you dig, you're going to hit groundwater anywhere in the valley, especially in San Benito. You can be anywhere in San Benito, you're going to hit groundwater. We were very optimistic when they were doing the excavation. They got to the lowest level, which is about, how many feet, Tony? Thanks for coming up, Tony. Tony Vargas with Davila.
Good evening. So we excavated to about 14 feet and we were okay. As soon as we got down, we had to get down to 17 and a half feet in depth. As soon as we got to that, we got to an area where it's a sand
Sandy
layer
loam?
at the bottom, and the water just started seeping and seeping and seeping, and it started around 14, but it really came through at 17. So right now, you can pump continuously, drain it continuously. You stop pumping for 4 hours, 5 hours, and it's got 1.5 feet or so of water in it again. So our next phase is right now we have a pump coming on the property. We have a well point system that's going to be provided and that's actually being engineered by United Rentals for us. They put wells, they dig down deep all around the perimeter of the pool, and they're going to have a continuous pump, diesel pump operating nonstop. So that'll eliminate the water from that area because it's going to be around the perimeter and allow us to actually do work in that area. We got to a point where we were very close and we thought, we were being as aggressive as we could without getting to this next phase of having to do additional dewatering. But as soon as we got to subgrade, we started seeing, you would drive a Bobcat over it and you see what's called pumping. So the Bobcat would step here and about 5-6 feet out, the whole ground would do this. And Robert Kistner does have a solution for that, is adding lime. We tried that didn't work either. So our next phase is we're doing this full dewatering well point system, and ideally, I think this will solve the problem to where it'll allow us to have a dry surface to work in as low as about 20 feet. So I think it'll keep the water down below our working area. If it continues, there's other options. I mean, we might have to actually install observation wells, or actually permanent observation wells. For the actual construction, there is an observation well. There's perforated pipe and there's gravel that goes beneath the pool that will be a permanent solution for dewatering. As soon as we're complete, we just need to get to the point where we can dry it out enough to work and build up. Once we put that gravel in, that perforated pipe, we will have well points. We'll have an observation well. We'll have a sump pump, and we'll be able to continuously draw water from directly underneath the pool. So.
They'll allow them to put in the bedding, and then obviously the pull shells will come in place. But
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate that.
So is that because we're already hitting the ocean water?
Yes, the water
'Cause
table
we're at
is there, I
sea
believe,
level.
it ranges between 14, 17 feet. I mean, I have to look back at the geotech to see exactly. But because of all that rain we had, it might have been as low as 19 feet, 20 feet. We would have been good, but January and February were,
Which is bad
there
months.
was a lot of rain. And so right now, all the water has risen, you know, the water table has risen and is kind of maintaining at that level. And so that's where we're at. I mean, it's something that we anticipated. It's just we're trying to minimize the expense because it's dewatering it has to be a constant process. But at this point, we're having to move to the next stage of actually putting in this well point system.
And to be able to build this, you have to go down 20 feet,
17 and a half,
17 and a half?
yes.
And so then, do you foresee any problems with the foundation after this is done?
No, that's the design is meant to actually take the water and permanently, you know, have water being pumped out as necessary. It'll have a sensor that as soon as it senses that there's water in an observation well, it'll turn on and start pumping water out.
And that'll be permanent?
Yes.
And who's gonna handle that pump?
That's a maintenance, regular maintenance of the pool. You'll probably you'll need a certified pool operator to manage the pool, you know, as it comes into use. Chemicals and everything else will need to be part of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
This picture is additional, I guess, rough and plumbing as they were progressing the construction site. Next slide. That's just another image of it. We went over the pay apps. For March was $145,945.77. Again, no allowance or expenditures. Milestones for March, again, that same meeting with the city manager, Mr. De La Rosa, and Fred Bell on plan reviews for civil. We did have our OAC meeting March 9th. And then that is structural steel that is on site there for the natatorium. And then there should be one more image, additional steel that was transported to site. On same thing with the action items, we do have the project sample color boards to go over it with the district. We do have the same item is on the license agreement with the Drainage District number 3. And then we are looking at the permanent power. There were 2 notices that we've already advised Davila Construction on bond claims. These are just claims from 2 suppliers that issued notices to the district. One was Texas Air and the other one was Service Steel Warehouse. They were part of the recent pay app that just got certified. Davila is obviously rendering payment and resolving those bond claims on payments. We do have an upcoming OAC meeting that is April 6th. And then we're anticipating the foundation pour for the natatorium either latter part of this week, early part of next week for the natatorium.
No concrete has been poured yet in that.
On the natatorium, no, it's been being prepped for pour on the foundation. We are anticipating that. We do have an inspection scheduled either later this week. City has been sending their staff, code enforcement for their inspections. And then our structural consultants with ROFA do inspect as well, no different. So there's multiple inspections that are done prior to pour. So if there is no green light, they don't pour. So again, I'd like to add that it's been a heavy burden on Davila in a sense, going through the months of January, February. And let me just explain a little bit about it. They had open trenches. So when you have open trenches, there's additional testing to make sure you have compaction. If it doesn't pass compaction, then they're having to re-excavate. They're having to recompact. That did happen, just FYI, multiple times with that amount of rain. You don't wish for that to happen to site, but it happens. It's just the way the weather is. The district is a beneficiary in a sense because after all that compaction, there is more foundation cement, concrete in those respective pours that just by default, just because of the additional compaction, you got a stronger foundation. It'll help. But again, it's one of those things, we're hoping that the weather gives the company a chance to continue to progress. We're very optimistic. We've had good weather days. We are not rushing, but we're going through those procedures to make sure that they get inspected and we move to the next few pours. Those pours are coming this week and next week. And we'll continue to advise the district of those pour dates. In regards to the site is sound. It's just, again, we are, there's challenges to every construction project. I think we've overcome most of them, but we're here to continue to move this along.
We do have one, and I would love to ask some help from the board as well as with the city. And
Oh, yes.
we have been, we've had about 7 robbery incidents on the property. Major I mean, our subcontractors lost over $140,000 of equipment, materials. We've put up 2 storage yards inside, so we have the entire property fenced. We put up 2 additional storage fenced yards. They actually cut through fences. They wired a bobcat and drove it off the property and through the back. They've stolen fire hydrants at the front end of the project. They damaged a mini excavator. They've stolen a trencher. They've stolen another mini excavator, pipe. They've stolen steel. They've stolen a tank full of diesel. I mean, and we have cameras, but we can see them.
Ms. Albion, can you address that issue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of, on April 1st, they were setting the light towers on. It was 2 in.the morning. And when they popped those lights on, everyone was getting there. We saw there was a couple of vehicles just jetting out. They were already anticipating to hit that night, to hit that spot. It's just their bad luck. Everyone was showing up to site at that time.
Mr. Palacios, you don't have no security on site?
There is, on site for,
For you guys, besides cameras and all that? Personnel?
I mean, we're getting hit in the middle of the night when there is no construction. We would have to have somebody on site there. Yeah.
Typically, the most budgets, we don't allow for full-time security because you're talking about, 2-year project, that would be an absorbent amount of money. We do have it for the last, I think, 3 months of the project when we have finishes and we're trying to lock the building down. We don't want anybody breaking in, vandalizing, whatever. We do have security. We intend to have security on the back end.
So if I may, I'm envisioning the type of security you may have. You mentioned you have cameras. So the footage that's being provided isn't being provided to anyone in particular as far as real time? It's just something that you come back and check and see, hey, things are gone now, and you go back and review the cameras?
Yes, and we need to, so we were thinking about adding a monitoring service to that, but at this point, we still need permanent power on site, which we're working on. Right now, we're running, we ran conduit from our temporary job office to our storage yard, and we're intending on putting a camera at that location and adding one farther down. But all of this requires long runs of electrical cabling.
So then what I just, again, clarification, you mentioned, or you, maybe I misunderstood, but what I hear that you said is you all need help with our city. Wouldn't that be part of y'all? I mean, I don't want to throw it back at you guys. It's your responsibility. You do have something in place, but that property belongs to our district. So wouldn't it be our district that would need to be looked into providing additional security?
And the reports have been the district police. So the district does have those police. They ran those reports. They visited Davila on site. So they've done their job. We would just say more periodic if they're checking the schools, make a run by the site. It would be very helpful.
Well, and we've asked the police department as well. I just, and maybe I misspoke, but yes, any assistance really that we can get. We've asked the police department. They said that they're going to increase patrols in the area. But again, if they're coming back through the back dark field that doesn't belong to the school district, well, it's hard to see them.
Yeah, they're coming in from the east side, not the school side.
I think we can get somebody there overnight or something like that.
So then, one more question. When it's bothersome, disturbing to me that you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage or worth of stolen materials. So then I know you guys, and I'm gonna say, and I may say something that's not correct, but you all are bonded and stuff. So who makes up for that stolen stuff? Is that stuff that now that Davila or whoever you guys need to repurchase because it's gone?
We haven't had to at this point yet. Everything has been insured.
Okay, so-
Our
so the
subcontractors have their
insurance
own
covers it.
insurance, so they've insured it. The Bobcat that they stole was actually a piece of rental equipment that we had.
Wow.
So
So-
the rental company is covered.
So there's no liability on the districts per se. However, what it
There's
does do,
downtime.
the downtime. That
Yes.
is what is really
Correct.
been a challenge. But no liability on the district.
I have a few questions on the PC.
Yes, sir. Please.
Is it still UIL certified? The
Yeah,
piece?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it is.
Okay, and they just said 2 AM night pour. Why got 2 AM?
Traditionally, the big pours, when they're prepping the cement
I mean, I'm
plants,
just
they run at that time. The major pours happen between 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
And it's because of the
Okay.
quantity of concrete that's
Okay,
coming in.
I see.
It has to come in over a certain amount of time, and then the finishers have to get to it and try to get a nice, clean surface before the sun hits it and starts drying it out. So typically, it's better to pour when it's dark and cool.
So I'll give you the example, 4 o'clock on that pour on March 10th, the finishers didn't walk out of there till about 5 o'clock. So they have to saw cut, they have to prep.
They have to.
So it takes all of that time. It was much faster. I think on April 1st, it was about 300 yards. They're doing about 100 yards an hour. So you're seeing cement truck in one after another coming in. It's a really neat sight. I went ahead and sent Miss Isabel all of the videos, photos.
my other
So that
question.
we can upload that and share with the general
It was-
public where
It
we're
was
at.
nice that you had all those pictures and videos, but the public is eating us up.
Yeah.
They don't see nothing done.
Yeah.
And you need to do a timeline with Ms. Gonzalez so she can put up on the website so that people can see them. You know what I'm saying? A timeline.
Absolutely.
Because they're tearing us apart, but.
Well, every report has its respective picture. We'll put them together and catalog them best so that they can be uploaded, so they'll see the timetable. What we can also do is offer as a forecast of the next 2 weeks or the next month within the construction of what's anticipated. So that'll give them some general idea of where we're at in
Like
construction.
right now, I
and how
could
it's
tell
unfolded.
what you did in January and now for March. And that's what the public needs to see.
Yeah.
Okay?
What is your estimated timeline of finishing?
We adopted a schedule within the amendment number 2 and number 3. I think we're in, it's an 20-month construction that has already started, obviously. We don't rearrange the schedule, that's the adopted schedule. We do recognize rain delays, and so we're going through that. And it has to be certified again with the ROFR team, our team, and we don't just jot down dates just to jot down dates. That's what our daily inspection is for. There is a Rankin report that's done daily, and it documents everything.
So if you can refresh my mind, because you're saying that that's already been covered, if you can refresh my mind, what is the finishing date?
It is on amendment number 2. You got that?
Off the top of my head, we have April for the natatorium, and it was August for the performing arts.
April of
What year?
23?
Yes. And the,
For the performing arts?
Natatorium.
Natatorium?
natatorium.
Here it is.
And performing arts was, I believe, August. But these needed to be, this date originally was based on an assumed notice to proceed date and building permit. We didn't actually get the building permit for about 3.5 weeks after that, so those will need to be pushed off a little bit.
Push a little bit.
from when we actually started.
I'd like to make just one quick statement, and I honestly am gonna say I mean no disrespect to either of you or either one of the companies that are working on this, on our projects, but you know, I agree with what Mr. Medrano is saying as far as the timeline goes, and to be more transparent to our public and transparent to us and transparent to our community. You know, it keeps being repeated to me that things that we do, perception is everything. And so I'm just gonna, again, no disrespect, and this is, as a gentleman, I'm saying no disrespect to anybody. But we had a board meeting on March 8th, and then on March 10th, we poured cement. March 8th, we said, hey, nothing's been done, you can't see nothing, you can't, you know, and then all of a sudden, March 10th, there's the cement being poured, or see, you know, so again, it's not that it's in response to the what was being said, you know, but again, perception. So if we are provided some type of timeline, that, I think that would greatly help.
Tana
and-
would be
and-
great.
And answer questions.
Yeah,
And I
no,
know
that-
it's not gonna be set in stone, because once again, we can't predict the weather. We don't know what's gonna happen, but at least something to go by.
That's Mr. Moreno, that's a perfect example. We do have an adopted schedule. We will make it available and we'll forecast by month. And then we'll start offering, as we're there weekly, we'll just send over our reports over to Ms.
Yeah.
Isabel. And I guarantee you, there'll be a lot more exposure. It's never a response to any criticism. It's just due process of what construction is. 3 times we were gonna pour, it got pushed back.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast.
You also
but-
had mentioned a groundbreaking.
Now, we've talked about that.
We haven't had a groundbreaking?
We have not had a groundbreaking. It would be in our best interest within the next week or two, if we'd like to. We can site prep it. I know we've been already anticipating an official groundbreaking. If we do, we'd like to do it while we're doing the foundation. So at that point, once we finish the foundations, you're going vertical. You see block on there already. It's going to start moving a lot faster, at least visually. It's been moving. It's just visually, because it's hard to see what's underground. If you see some of those images, when you're driving off the road, you have no idea that it's that way unless you're there. But you're right. The best thing to do is get some exposure on the district website. We'll prep it and we'll send it on.
The exposure affects you guys.
Yes, sir.
Because right now, we're looking bad and you're looking bad, but the public sees, that they're working on it, and they look at videos, they look at pictures.
Right.
It's good.
We will make sure.
Mr. Palacios?
Yes, sir.
Do you need permits to go vertical, or?
We've already, matter of fact, you think Tony has the checks in his car, so we do, it's the same permit. There's no new permit. The original permit from November, basically, they segregated the payment for what was foundation. On the partial permit, the last value, Mr. Eddie and at the city department gave Davila their values already. Checks have already been cut. They're issuing to the district so they can get the final vertical. Again, we're still in the foundation portion, so there's nothing,
Oh, wow.
we haven't passed that at all yet. We'd like to get it cleared out by this week. I did have a meeting last week with the city manager. They see no delay whatsoever. There was a reference point to the final civils, just to make sure everything, they see nothing, no reason why we can't get at least Davila get their final vertical by end of week, which is early because we're still in the foundation. Until we finish the foundation, they're not going vertical still. So that will be resolved early enough. So we've been pressing the city to make sure that we're clear with that. But we've gotten every correspondence that we're days away.
Mr. Palacios, one last thing, and I promise you won't hear from me anymore for today. But it's been brought to my attention, and again, I'm learning, and it's
Please.
great. It's great information. So I've been informed that you sent the district a link today.
Yes.
That will provide the information that we're asking for as we speak, or
Yes.
perhaps some of that.
That is correct. So I offered everything that we did chronologically from the excavation further. It is already in a Dropbox. I'm going to continue to do that, I think, bi-weekly. We're there every day as construction is, while we're receiving material. We'll document it and we'll provide it to the district. So we'll do every 2 weeks. That should give at least where you get, you can change it out more frequently and they can see it. We will also offer a segment within the month, call it what to expect this month for the performing arts and the auditorium, and just so they're already anticipating. The report, we also offered the report. It does show the PowerPoint, it does show some of the timetables, but we'll refine it so it's more of a bird's eye view where they feel the sense of there's progress.
That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, sir. No, we'll continue that.
And who are you giving this information to? Is it to
I submit it to the district every month on the first. On the first of every,
specifically, is it to
I issue
PR
it to-
person, superintendent?
yeah, so protocol has always been, we have an end-of-month report, and every team turns in a end-of-month report. It goes in, it gets sent in, it encompasses the entire month, so on the first date, religiously, that email goes through the superintendent, Ms. Rosa, we offer to Ms. Vicky. At that point, it gets disseminated to board members. I can issue it directly to board members. I can do whatever the board. That was the way it was done prior, but we can do the reporting in any way you all see fit. But that report does go out every month on the first, without fail. There hasn't been a month that we hadn't hit on the first. What we're going to add to it is this every 2 weeks, the forecasting of construction, and then obviously all the videos, photos, so that they can be uploaded on the school website so people can see the progression of construction. So we're going to add that in automatically already. And then we'll provide a more hybrid schedule so they're looking at the month and the upcoming month. So we can do that as well and provide it for Ms. Isabel so that she can have it. So we did provide that link this morning out of recommendation. I know, thank you, Mr. Medrano and Mr. Silva, for visiting us on the site and doing a walkthrough. We're willing to give a walkthrough. It's nice to see it. You can see it. It's hard to see off the road. When you get in there and you see the reports and you're starting to see the images, it really does baffle you how big the performing arts is. It's a very big building.
It was a great visit.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll continue doing that on the reporting. And then we'll be getting with Ms. Servillon on the action items. Those are items that are pressing so that we can get those things processed and continue working with you, making sure you get everything you need.
So if I may, Mr. Rayon, I just recommend that, when you get those links and that information on a monthly basis from Mr. Palacios and his staff, as he said, he sends it to you and Ms. Perez and the people that he needs to send it to, that we expedite that information so that we can make it public and get that information to Ms. Gonzalez in a timely manner.
Yeah, it hadn't been done, it's been done on our part, but I guess better disseminated, I could see it, it's very beneficial. But I want to thank Mr. Medrano and Mr. Silva for making that claim. They made it that day. We started producing the Dropbox link, sent it in earlier. So we'll respond as requested.
Mr. Palacio, also if you can make time and visit with
I
Mr.
look forward to, I was going to
Yes,
reach out. I knew she had a busy week, last 2
Yes.
weeks, so we're ready to sit down with her and get through these action items.
We thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Moreno, if I may?
Of course.
Thank you. So the information, Mr. Palacios does send it over to us. That information is given out either on, like today, it's on our board docs, because we know that he's going to be presenting. If he is not presenting in the next board agenda, the building committee meeting, we do send it out as part of the weekly briefs that Ms. Peggy does send out. So
you're talking about the weekly board update?
correct.
Okay, so what I'm referring to though, and I thank you for that, but what I'm referring to is, for example, Ms. Gonzalez informed me that she had received that link. And once Mr. Palacios and his staff start providing information as to the timelines and stuff, I think that would be something that we need to either put on our website or elsewhere so that it can be available to the public. Because we do get that question, we get questioned very often that, what's going on? Nothing's going on. And so that way they can see. It's a process. But if they see it in front of them, they're able to make better, rather than just spreading
Understood.
inaccurate information, they've got something to go by.
We can definitely work with technology to make sure that happens, sir.
Thank
I
you.
work directly with the webmaster in getting that information posted.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, we look forward to working with them. We'll make sure we.
And you know what I envision? I envision those little 30-second videos, right, where you see like the beginning and where you are, like a month later, right? It's like a fast-forward video of,
Yeah.
you all know
Well,
what I'm
and
talking about?
Ms. Lopez, we do have all of that. We have an abundance, thousands and thousands of photos that we'll timeline them, and we'll provide something for Ms. Gonzalez. We do it on several other projects already. We're doing it in Laredo. So we can definitely do it for San Benito. I definitely know that it would be very, very beneficial to your general public. You shouldn't have to explain every moment what's going on.
Right.
Go to Walmart, because I get
Exactly.
it.
You'll
I
get it.
Two people.
And I get it, so we'll,
That's why I go at night.
I know one of the things that people have asked about is our practice facility at the high school.
yes, ma'am.
So can you give us an update on that? Are Mr. Rion, are
Yes.
kids using it, or is it still on stand? It's part of construction, can we discuss it?
Multi-purpose, are you talking about
The multi-practice facility?
the multi-purpose facility?
Mr. Waller, you're still on. Can we ask for some, although it's not, it's falls under construction, but can we ask on that multipurpose facility?
Let me check the agenda item, Mr. Moreno, to make sure.
It would be 2.2.
Okay.
I'll join Mr. Pettis.
Okay. All right.
On
when-
construction
It's in the
projects,
updates.
yeah, and it just says construction projects, so.
Okay.
And I think it's probably broad enough.
It's part of it.
I'll start. Basically, we did have an occupancy permit from the city of San Benito. The district did receive that building, and I have a binder for Mr. Pettis. There was inspections, punch list, everything done by mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural, structural. We did walkthroughs. There were several items that were part of the original punch list that Hellas Construction had addressed and have been done. There are some lagging items that are warranty items that they're still addressing, one being the power source to the mechanical doors. There are 2 or 3, for some reason, within the lag of the line. If for some reason it's tripping the box. At once, when we sent a mechanical engineer, it was presumed that the added components maybe had caused a surge. They went through there, they looked at it, it's not one of those. It's a wiring issue between one of the conduits to the doors, which Hellas will be here tomorrow to address that. So that is still a warranty item. It's been listed. It's not anything that's at the district cost or anything, and it's one of the things that Hellas has to remedy so that under the warranty phase where there is no cost. Other than that, there's minor, I don't want to say minute, but there's minor masonry items that we're looking on. Some of the mason is, and the way one of the blocks on where the metal meets the CMU wall that needs to be adjusted. We documented everything. We've served them with the items. They are listed here, and we're working with Mr. Pettis on them addressing it. But the facility is obviously being used already. It's been used since the day we had the occupancy permit. We have been part of the notification process. When something does come up, we get notified. We issue notice to Hellas. They issue it to their subcontractors. We quickly deem and document to make sure that we capture it in the warranty phase to make sure they address it. Again, it's like anything else. We don't know how the building functioned until you receive a building. Some other items was on the canopy in the front. The subcontract, the strong steel, the way they attached the canopy, it was not fully. It was almost coming inward, then outward. They had to do some resetting. We saw some water coming down. That was readjusted. There were some doors that were readjusted. There was some, on the roll-up doors, they added some weatherproofing. That was not part of the contract, but they added their weatherproofing. They added the drains and then some other items. But it's all documented here. I'd be happy to sit with Ms. Servillon and Mr. Pettis. We did a binder just to make sure that you were the depository of all the warranties. And then we wanted to make sure that we were part of the process to notify Hellas so that we could register it. Every year after a year of a period, once you receive the building, there is an inspection that happens. That inspection happened last week. The 24th of March is that year. You've had it since March 24th of last year is when the district had received the building. That part of the inspection, again, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, everyone comes through again. We check everything all over again, and then we issue a list where Hellas has to address. The only lagging items was the power source to, I think, 2 or 3 electrical doors. They work. It's not the door. It's not the motor. It's the power source that's coming into that unit. Causes the switch to flip, and then it has to be resetted. So that is being rectified. We are coordinating a meeting with Mr. Pettis and Hellas folks just to make sure that that's addressed. And we're going to stay on top of it till they do.
Okay, so I lied. I've got 2 more questions for
Sure.
you then.
Sure.
Sorry about that, and
Sure.
I just want to be more informed.
Please.
So first and foremost, before I forget, I know that Mr. Mr. Silva?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, mentioned that he would like for you to arrange a meeting with Ms. Servillon. I don't know what your flexibility is. I know Ms. Servillon has provided some flexibility, but if at all possible, I'd also like to be included in that meeting.
Absolutely.
And then the other question is, somewhere, somehow, I was provided some information, and it may be erroneous information, as far as this multi-purpose center that we've got, that the building is no longer under warranty. Is that correct?
That
or
is
that not
incorrect.
correct?
That is
Okay,
not correct
then
whatsoever.
that's what I want to hear.
And that's,
Okay,
yeah, and that's what this binder is. It's
Okay,
your full
sounds good.
warranties, and and we've issued that warranty to the district.
Okay.
But I have a fresh copy, and again, we'll help Mr. Pettis, and we've always been available to Mr. Pettis when those questions come up, but no, everything's under warranty. The issue is assuring that we do proper notification to Hellas. That is why we stick around no matter what. We're gonna go through this with the natatorium and the performing arts to assure, again, when you receive a building, you're going to go back and see whether or not, why was it done? Was it done properly? Was it a product issue? What the issue is? We work through all of that, make sure that there's a response, it's documented, so it's at no cost to the district, and those things get resolved.
So I
But-
just want to make sure that I'm clear, that I understand what you said. On the pending items that we have, those are not pending items that would cause the district not to be able to utilize that building?
Oh, nothing.
We have all our permits that we need for that building to be utilized?
That building is yours, fully functional. It's a public building. It's been since March 24th of last year. There has been nothing that.
Okay, and so what happened with the backflow? Was that ever completed?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the backflow, you do have a backflow preventer for the fire line for the indoor. You do have a backflow preventer for the domestic water that doesn't just serve the indoor practice facility. It serves your stadium and all the other facilities that's attached to that domestic water line that's off La Palma. The issue happened when the city reviewed the documents. They did not call for a backflow preventer for the domestic water. They did call for a domestic backflow preventer for the fire line, which is a fire suppression system within your indoor. That is what was in Hellas's contract. That is what Hellas did. The reason later at the end, right at occupancy, they requested because of, I guess, TCEQ, the lack of backflow preventers within the city of San Benito, they tagged the domestic water line. So the easiest thing to do was say, hey, Mr. Palacios, you have an indoor. Yes, we already approved you. Yes, you have a certificate. Can you work with the district to implement a backflow preventer on the domestic line? You know, it's already done. So we obviously elected to help the district. At no cost to the district, we did a site analysis. We did the plans. We did all the assessments to all your water lines within the respective stadium and all. We produced it. We sent it to the city. I think that's when Mr. Pettis took over and did install a backflow preventer for the domestic water line. If there's still talk about a backflow preventer, it has to do with a fire line. There is a fire line that comes off La Palma just east, and it goes right, if you're right at the concession, at the ticket booth in the front, it is a line that runs straight to La Palma. That line goes straight to your 4 fire hydrants, 2, I think there's 4, 2 on each side of your stadium. The city is requesting, and there was some correspondence that at that time, Dr. Carmen had elected to help the city by, well, not help, but just comply with their request to install a backflow preventer at the fire line. Has nothing to do with the indoor. It's just a fire line that it deals with your stadium for the fire hydrants. We made ourselves available, Mr. Pettis. We had already looked at the lines. It's as simple as, Mr. Pettis, we believe that this is the coordinates. This is exactly where you should install it. Here's the specifications of what they're needing. Just prep it so that the district can move forward if the district so chooses to proceed on it. There's a lot of argument on whether you need a backflow preventer for fire hydrants. It is a city line for fire protection. However, because of TCQ and a prior commitment, we are at service to the district if in fact we continue on with the original agreement to address that backflow preventer for the fire line, for the fire hydrants for the stadium. It's just something we picked up along the way because we were there and they asked for assistance, and we meet with them regularly. So it has a lot to do with the performing arts and the natatorium. We try to maintain a really great relationship with them because of that. When we petition for inspections, and I'll go back to the lift station on Alamo Street. The city is doing that as a replacement project for the offsite utilities. We are working with them to connect your water and sewer, or your sewer, to that lift station in the next few months. So we've been dealing with them a lot. So inadvertently, the last year or so, any issue that came up pertaining to backflows, they've always gotten it with us. We get with Mr. Pettis, but it's we've had good relations. We just need direction.
Okay. So
On
what
the
you're
fire
saying
line.
is that pending backflow has nothing to do with the facility that you all built? Okay, all right.
None.
Thank
None
you so
whatsoever.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the ribbon cutting, we need to do a ribbon cutting also.
Yes.
Yes.
So I hope Mr. Pettis can provide some clarity, because I walked the multipurpose building, and a lot of men were there working and trying to get the electricity back up. So there were some situations going on, and so I'm very curious to hear his update. I also noticed some things that needed us to look at them, like the doors are not leveled or balanced.
So your name, that's an original item on a warranty list that right
But
on the
there's-
top of the pedestrian doors, there is some spacings. They should have on the plans had the longer door. So they're doing metal flashing. That's structural steel, strong steel it is a warranty. It's covered. It's not that it's not getting done. We're working with Strong Steel and Hellas to make sure that they install those proper steel flashings.
And so nobody was using the facility because the electricity was like not on. I was on in the weight room. Now, another thing is that, and maybe, like I said, Mr. Perez can explain.
But that won't have anything to do with our facility. That had to do with the AEP issue where the surge, that had nothing to do with our, like, it
So-
was, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the entrances also, it looked like halfway done. It was like plywood was
Oh, okay,
exposed.
well, and I can explain that. So when we did a guarantee maximum price, and we're going back to the very beginning, the bid for the guarantee maximum price, they were at $7.5 million. We needed to be at $5 million. That's a 2 some odd million dollars. So we had to look at the configuration of the field, the runoff width, all of these things to taper that budget down a few million
So
dollars.
we used plywood?
No, that we didn't use plywood. That actually is preset to put the padding.
Okay.
If you look at you take out the padding, it's the same deal. So
Okay.
they're set to have padding on it. So the district at that time elected to say, we're gonna purchase the padding so we don't have to pay the contractor the whatever the percent off for the CMR. Why procure it? Why let them procure it if we can procure it ourselves? That was the idea of the cost saving. So it's always been understood it's a district purchase on the additional padding. So it wasn't designed to stay that way. It was only designed to say, we need to order the padding that will go into all those areas that are already preset for it. You wouldn't use drywall because the kids would tear that up. So you have to put the padding. It's always been understood that way. And I know Mr. Pettis wasn't with us in the very beginning when these packages were accepted and the board elected at that time to purchase independently items. And those were decisions that were made back then, but it wasn't designed to stay that way.
And then also I'm wondering on the drains, and I may, again, Mr. Perez, because I saw that they dug kind of trenches so that the water would drain.
The swell on the south side?
Yes.
Yeah, the south side. So again, this is district. There was a line where Hellas finished, and that was the pad site. There's a line where the district kept up, and that was the slope and the drain. So again, it's not that it wasn't done. Back then, the board had elected to not allow a contractor to do it when they're going to sub it out anyway. That's why the landscape was done by the district. The pavers in the front were done by the district. And all the cement sidewalks that are on both sides of the buildings. Could have been done different. I would have elected that maybe Hella should have done it all. However, we're still having them to deal with warranty items. How would they have done it any better? I think the benefit would have been that the district do it. It's just one of those lagging items that need to be addressed. We're willing to offer at least, we did the landscape plan, so the landscape plan is part of it with PBK Architects, so we can look at the original scope on the slopes, and it's just dirt. We have plenty of dirt. It's just resloping it, capturing a drain, down drains, and that issue is solved.
Speaking of landscape, were the trees ever planted?
The trees are planted. Those
Okay.
were donated, I believe. By
23 trees, okay.
Yeah, they were donated by the bank.
Come again? 20 trees, 20. Oh, 20, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sir.
Thank you. Mr. Pettis, if you, I'll stick around just in case there's an additional question.
Okay, next item will be 2.3, presentation from the planning director, Mr. Perez, regarding pending project.
Good evening again, Board, Mr. Rayon, Mr. Moreno, board members. staff, colleagues, and those watching from afar. I just want to give you a quick update. I'm not going to go into much of detail. You have what I think is going to present to you what we've done so far. We'll talk specifically the items that you asked for. We'll talk about the tennis courts. We'll talk about the multipurpose facility, and I think he already covered most of it, but we'll highlight some things there as well. And then we'll talk about also the site that is being constructed now, which is our parking lot surfacing, and then the tennis court as well. So let's start with the multipurpose facility. We talked a little bit about the landscaping piece just now. Well, it's been complete. The only problem that I had was on the south side that Ms. Arellon had the privilege of seeing is being obviously done because of the rains. Now, we can help solve some of the issues of the erosion, but the water is too strong as it comes down. It's just going to cause erosion regardless of what we do. The solution that we talked to, and it was to Edith, which is from Hellas, said that they would help us with that process at no cost to us. So that's one of the items that we've discussed initially when they came and did a visit. Hellas did a visit. We did a walkthrough with Hellas. So we outlined everything that he just mentioned. It's still part of the original warranty. But let me just make a correction and make sure that I'm correct, because the warranty, as I understood, ended on the 24th of March. The items that we have on the list have not. In other words, they continue because they've already been addressed previously, and they're still on our
Can you
list
repeat
to
that?
do.
Because I didn't understand.
Okay, the warranty that we have current expired on the 24th. A warranty, it's a one-year warranty.
March.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
However, the items that we've had and you have in front of you and are listed, they've already are going to be covered regardless. So if there's been several things that have occurred throughout the year, as you know, people, in this case, Hellas lost several good folks. So the process that they have to go through to assess what's been done or not done has been lost to a previous project manager that was there. Coy was the guy that we dealt with, and obviously Mr. Palacios. So there's been a little bit of shaking ground, I guess, with Hellas as how they're going to handle this stuff. It's not because they're not going to do it, and there's a kind of a delay on that process. They will do it. It's just a matter of when. I know you asked for a timeline. I asked the same thing with Mr. Palacios because he's more directly contacted with Hellas, and then he knows the ins and outs of what he has done with Hellas. So he's helping us in that process. We still have, like I said, those things that you have listed on there. It's already on that list, and the punch list he was talking about is on that list. So we don't have to stress whether they're going to do it or not. We're going to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, and let's see how it goes here with the next 3 months.
So
And-
punch list is still pending?
Second, sir?
The punch list is still pending?
The punch list, we
Am I-
already have the punch list. The one that you have on there, it's in addition to what Mr. Palacio has, that we found before, because we had an inspection before the 24th actually expired. So those other additional items that you have in front of you are in addition to that.
To it, okay.
I know there's some things already been repaired, so we may have to address those separately, but what he has, I'll provide to you, that way you know exactly.
Those are covered, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And just a timeline, they're assuring me within the next 30 days they'll be addressing all items. The good thing is that I guess they're still a vendor with the district, and they're doing their tennis courts. But I did talk, not just to Edith, I talked to Mr. Albini and their higher-ups just to make sure it is our year. There are items, they're not a lot of items, but they need to be resolved immediately. I gave them the whole pitch about if they're not legal, that kind of stuff, we're serving you notice that they need to be addressed. So they're giving me about 30 days, but I'll work with Mr. Pettis on those items to make sure they do take care of them.
So let's talk about what Mr. Rayón talked about, electricity. About 3 weeks ago, we had a surge that it went through AEP. They had a cross line somewhere in their system. Our system went down. So when it went down, it burned three things. Three items, which is the surge protectors. Mr. Cole was able to get the company that actually did the work for us, for that facility, and was able to obtain the three surge protectors. Otherwise, we would have been paying ourselves $15K per surge protector. So they were installed by a different vendor, but we've got the warranty on those surge protectors. So with district, there was no cost to us to replace those. lighting, I don't know what's been happening with the lighting, or at least AEP. There's been surges throughout the district. Some of those surges caused some damage, obviously, to our facility. So we ordered some of the lighting that we required. We were out with lighting for about 3 weeks, so we installed those already. When I say we, I'm talking about maintenance. The lights were ordered. We need to order some more, so about 10 sets more that we need to complete. We're working on the actual information that they provided, which is a plan for the lighting that doesn't match when we ordered, didn't match what we had. So Mr. Palacios is working with Hellas to make sure they provide us the accurate plan that matches our facility. So again, it goes back to, because we go back to the plans, right? They give us the plans, I have to go back and look at what we have, so we order the proper item for that facility.
And I'll explain that. There were some change orders that the district did approve. There was the addition of more storage and a different office as well. That increased the amount of lighting in that area. So they're reflective on the change order, however, the plans weren't redone to be updated. So what we're doing is doing an as-built so that you'd have the accurate count from here forth. So amending the plans to show those changes, but incorporating the plans so you have them. But it's an addition of lights, not a reduction of lights, so.
So going back to the surge, it also affected our sports complex as well. So we had to address that. So we had a little work to do in the last 3 weeks. Also, it affected our stadium, so we had to address the lighting also in the stadium. So it was not just that one facility that was affected, it was affected several of our facilities that we worked on. Right now, multipurpose facility is the only one remaining to complete. Once we receive those lights, we'll be fine. Next slide, please. So here's the same things I think we talked about just now, that we're talking about the different items that are on our punch list. What you see what you have on there is exactly what we talked about. We've met before the 24th, so that we'll be covered, knowing that our timeline is going to end as far as the warranty was concerned. So we wanted to address some of the items ahead of that. So Mr. Palacios was kind enough, along with his staff, to come out there and help us with that process. Next slide, please. And we're talking about the roll-up doors. That's been an ongoing issue from day one. And it changes and it varies between doors, which one goes up, which one doesn't come down. I know or Coach Gomez is very concerned because he has on May 1st, I believe he has 100 coaches coming to the facility. You know, who doesn't want the building perfect, right? So we're working very hard along with Mr. Palacios to get that done, at least the doors, to make sure they're working by that time frame. I know they've already addressed some of the items in the back, which the tears, those are not there any longer, but I did reinforce that they need to be readjusted. That's what he just mentioned a little while ago. There's some areas inside the gym that still need some attention. Those are also on our punch list that you see on here. And again, we'll provide you all that so you have it, not only just physically here, but we'll give you the book that he produced. And the sheeting is what he's talking about, which is it looks like almost a cloth sheet on top. But I'm telling you, if it was me originally, I would not have chosen that. Simply because there's footballs going up there. There's potentially maybe even soccer balls that hit it, and so they're going to be tears regardless of what we do and how we maintain it. It was a cost decision back then, before my time, obviously, but those are things that we have to address, at least if they can address it now, because it's supposed to tolerate a ball being hit up there. But right now I can tell you it doesn't, because once we open the doors, it tears. And so I'm talking Mr. Palacios, has already talking to Hellas about this, and we're trying to address that as well. All right.
So will that be covered under warranty?
It is right now. It is.
Promised to do something, but it's not.
It is, and it's been fixed at least 3 times in the last year. And then the ones that are inside the weight room area, those were touched, but have not been completed. So they got to come back anyway to address that.
So I'll explain. It's impact sheeting, and it has metal bars that kind of set them in. They're coming off of off the rails right now. A few things are happening. Obviously, balls are being hit into that area. It's gonna happen. You don't have the problem on the side where you have weight room because we have a finished product, we don't have the sheeting. There was a significant cost for it to be on the south side. We should have reversed it at that time, because the end zone was on that side. It is one of the things that's covered. It's designed to it's designed to take the impact and not come off. So our issue is our structural people need to come back and they need to reinforce the sheathing so that when hit, they're designed to be impact. That sheathing is on a whole chunk of indoor facilities throughout the state. It's recommended for use purposely. I personally think that it's a structural issue where they need stronger reinforcements so that the impact doesn't tear. It doesn't come off of it. It's an easy fix, but a permanent one would have been the finished wall on that backside. You're still gonna have hits, dings, and all of that. If you had that wall on that side, I guarantee you're gonna see ball marks all over the place. So it's one way or another. You can either maintain it or you're gonna reinforce it. What we're doing is making sure that we keep calling it out so they keep coming and putting it and reinforcing it. We're hoping they get the point. Reinforce it stronger, not at a cost to us, or else we're gonna, because we listed it as a warranty item, you're gonna have to come every darn time, you know? So it's a cat and mouse game with them because we don't wanna pay another dollar for it. So I keep making the argument, it's a structural issue, you need to have stronger reinforcements. I think that's the solution. In the walkthrough tomorrow with Hellas, we're gonna make that argument. Day one, it keeps hitting its impact, it was supposed to, it hasn't. We want stronger reinforcements.
Right, yeah, they just need to get it done. I mean,
Yeah.
why do we have to keep calling them to fix it? It just needs to be reinforced.
And Mr. Pettis'
It's
call.
keeping the kids from using it.
Yeah.
But actually, they continue using it. The problem is there's a sore eye, meaning that you look at it, it just doesn't look very, very professionally done. And especially when you have visitors, I'm not sure how many visitors we've had, other than yourselves, obviously, but it does produce a view that says, wait a minute, you paid how much for this facility? And so it becomes a topic of conversation that we don't want to have, truly.
Yeah, I
Right.
also think that Hellas does not want to be coming out constantly
Your mic.
and fixing it, so that is a good
correct.
thing that we're, oh, sorry. Sorry. I don't think they want to be coming constantly and fixing that, so it's a good thing to stay on top of it to see how we can remediate that, because I did go out there again and did ask that question as well.
Yeah, the other issue is when those doors are up, the wind current's in there.
Right.
The way the doors are, you do get significant wind currents, that is affecting the sheathing as well. So again, we could think about it, it's done this way, stronger reinforcements, I think, is a solution. They're not gonna wanna keep coming out, so they'll get it right finally. The usage is a question that I always have. We have kids in there. I don't think it's because they're trying to knock it down. I honestly think it's a reinforcement issue, and we're gonna continue to make that argument, but we'll work with Mr. Pettis on that. And Ellis.
Next slide, please. The parking lot resurfacing, I can tell you right now, we're working 100% until today that we were told to stop. And the reason we were told to stop is the city looked at a plan that was submitted originally by G&T. It was approved for us to start the project. As with further review from their staff, they came back and said, well, we need you to provide certain details, which is highlighted or actually addressed in here already. The first one is, a permit which was issued. It was issued by the city by a code inspector that works for the district or for the city. But later on, I guess during the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something occurred that triggered that. And what triggered that was actually us hitting a line, a fire line that caused us, it caused a water to actually fill in the front, which was a water line that we did not know whether it belongs to the city or belongs to the district. So that came a point of contention of what line, whose line does that belong to. When I say we, the district don't have a plat originally or plans for that facility when it was, I guess, either bought, and I understand that it was not bought, it was an exchange for another property. Nonetheless, something should have happened back then. It didn't occur. So right now, Mr. Cole just sent me a message, which is good news. He found an actual, or I guess his secretary found the actual plan and the plat, and for that area, oh, and by the way, a drainage system that goes with it. But that's what they were asking. So I think we're doing some headway in that, positive headway. We will address the others. We have GDJ that's going to come out and do a plan for us, which is a drainage, because that's what they asked for. And so we're going to address all those with an actual engineer, which, by the way, there was an engineer stamp on the plan that was sent to the city. And again, we're trying our best to accommodate and do the best we can so that we have that relationship continues with the city.
So, Mr. Perez, why does it seem, in just reading about these problems and hearing from you, why does it seem that rather, I mean, I hate to say it, but that we're getting knocked down every step we take? And, what are we, or are we doing things that we shouldn't be doing, or are we doing things that are resulting in being out of compliance to where then the city turns around and puts a stop to it? Because every step of the way, it looks like we're fighting a losing battle.
Well, he's gone already? Well, I can tell you that Mr. Palacios had been having the same issues previously with the facility originally. I'll take you back to the start of when I got here with the multipurpose facility. Originally, they were put on hold for about 3 months. I'm not sure who was here at that time, but they were put on hold for 3 months because they couldn't figure out how to put the backflow for that facility. Then Superintendent then, Dr. Carmen, asked me, Mr. Perez, what can we do? I said, well, I said, I don't know. I mean, what can we do? The city's asking for this information. Let's go ahead and work it. Well, there was an issue with I guess, with the submittal of a plan for that facility initially didn't match what they wanted to do, because the line that they originally had planned was actually a loop that goes around the stadium, again, before our time, for some of us, that supposed to loop all around and then tie into that fire line. Well, it didn't have that loop. The city came out because they were going to do it. They were going to have their own guys install it. That didn't occur. So later on, Mr. Cole had submitted a requirement, or not requirement, but a plan that asked for a line to be constructed, so about 600 feet line, by the way, that goes to the fire hydrant closest to the facility. Well, at that point, when that line was actually not done, it should have triggered someone to say, hey, listen, we need to be able to connect to a fire line. So I proposed then at that time to have that fire line done by us, saving the district approximately about $250,000 back then. Mr. Cole had hired through a PO, had put a request to have a fire line specialist from Johnson Controls to come in and look at that line. Well, Johnson Control was not going to do any construction. All they were going to do is oversee us doing the project. Well, what I recommended is, why don't we use, and this is again, Hellas, why don't we use Hellas people that are already there? They're already the experts. They also have the same type of folks to do the same thing that this company could come and do at no additional cost. So that's what we did. So we did the line, they connected to closest to where they were, and now we have a fire line. And I think since that point, the city's contention has been well, you didn't give us any plans. Well, they do have plans, and you have them on here as well. So they did have the plans, they've had them always. But to be honest, and I'll be forthright, I think that the city thinks that we're taking water and that it's not being metered. Well, we have a meter at that fire hydrant, and that fire hydrant captures all water, and that water that's being used right now is for the facility that's actually the sprinkler system that we have for the field. So water is running out of that line.
Mr. Perez, I have a question. When
Yes,
do
sir.
you project for this to restart? What date
For,
for the parking lots? That's what we're talking about.
well, okay, so we're going back to.
Just stop right now.
Yes, but the question was asked by Mr. Rayón is why, and then I was wondering why do we have those challenges? And so I'm going through that. But if you will keep me on point, I can go back. But so that was the issues, I think, and it kind of just morphed into over time. What I understood that this has already been occurring before my time frame. There's been this, this discontent. I don't know why. I've tried to work with the city. Trust me, because we want to have a good relationship. It affects what we do each and every day. So if they wanted us to do the culinary arts, that's another example. Culinary arts had also been on a standstill before I got here. We actually proposed to the city. It says, well, if only you actually requiring for us to have a master plumber, let's go ahead and get a master plumber. So we hired a master plumber and we started working with the city. And we paid the permits, whatever they needed for us, and we did that. I don't think it was an issue. I think it was, again, a communication issue. So going back to this, to this right now, we're looking probably to getting this done. If Mr. Cole has what I believe he has, because I haven't seen it, he sent it to me, but I haven't been able to open it. If he has what I think he has, then that gives us a little bit of leverage to be able to go back to the city and says, here, we have this information. No, they didn't have it, they should. All this data is the city's supposed to be providing also to us. Not just say, well, produce it, well, yeah, but you're also responsible to have this in your files, not just Mr. Pettis, or in this case, a district. So nonetheless, once we do that, we got also GDJ. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? We did. We put the bill, but it was actually overseen by Hellas to make sure that we did it properly. And so they are the ones that were the guys, I guess, sponsoring, so to speak, that line, and to be able to tie in. So that was inspected by them, and then it was verified by also the fire chief and tested. So it passed. And again, it's already on there. So going back to the timeline for the UTEX, we're anticipating to having a plan by GDJ next week. I'm hoping Friday we have it. If we have Friday, we'll submit it, which they ask for the drainage plan, which is not difficult to do. They also ask for a slope. Then they're asking for a plat. Okay, when they're asking for a plat, it's all the entire 5 acres that we have. We're not doing the whole entire 5 acres, but they're asking for that. And again, because they don't have it, well, we can argue, right, all night about who has what, but I want to get this done. It's for the right reasons, and we'll do whatever we can to meet them, to meet those requirements they're asking for. And again, I'm not going to say, should we argue with them? There's no need, because some of this we can solve. It's solvable. It just puts us in a bind, because as you well know, also we had a 4-month wait from a previous issue that we had, right?
And it's understandable too that the city has requirements when it comes to building, and we have to follow building codes, and, because we want to avoid later having a lawsuit or something because something goes wrong and the city approves something they shouldn't have, and so we
Yes, ma'am.
understand that there's a process that we have to go through, but at the same time, like you said, you all as a district working together with them will make things go smoother as well. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing.
No, it's not a problem. I've always been a team player. I don't think I've always shied from doing anything that, especially anything that we're going to do wrong. This right here can get us in a lot of trouble. It's the district, obviously. The line that we ran to, which is a fire line, we went to the fire chief. I went to the fire chief and said, hey, can we move this line? And then the charge chief says, well, can you talk to the city? We did. What do you want us to do? Obviously, he came back and says, well, now we want you to do all this. Wait a minute, I just don't ask you for the fire line. I didn't ask you for anything else. But because they don't have the data to fulfill whether it's their line or our line, because it was a private building at one point before we even accepted it, right? And if it was a private building, then those fire hydrants would have been the responsibility of the owner. Now that it's been transferred and it's on the city limits, not the county, well, now they pick up the responsibility. So they have to tell us where those lines run. I don't have that data. The city does. Nor do I know where those lines run or how they run that belong to the city, but they want that information. I'm not the...
Where do you want me to get it from?
Exactly. And we'll do what we can. And I think it's like I said, it's solvable. We have engineers who are going to be giving us some hand from GDJ. So we'll solve it. I don't think And again, I don't think it'd be an issue. Timing is an issue, because obviously we want to complete this project. And before we jump to the other side, you can argue whether it's a new construction or a resurfacing. You can argue that either way. But, okay, so the city says, well, it's no longer a resurfacing, it's actually a construction. Yes, because we have modified some of the layers, because we went deeper, because we're doing it in accordance with the standards of TxDOT, right? And so that's why we hit the line. And oh, and by the way, that line was not done to code. So I told them that. It was the depth was very shallow. We should never have hit that line, but we did. So now we have to bring it up to standard and to code, which we should. And that's why there's a delay. Going to the backflow, I'm not going to cover that. I think Mr. Palacios did very well covering that piece already. In the back, you'll see the drawing, and the drawing kind of covers exactly what it is. The fire line that we have connected to that is actually to the fire line. It's independent from the domestic water. They've had this themselves, meaning the city, but for some reason they want another backflow, but they want it up front where they can see it. For the fire line, is the same thing that we already have connected to. So my challenge to the city was back then is, why two? We already have one, right? The expense is, for us, it's going to be roughly about $20,000. That's how much it costs for us to do it. When we did it ourselves, it cost us about $15,000, because we went and got the materials, but we went to get it from San Antonio physically, went to pick it up from San Antonio, drove over there, came back the same day. We'll not do that again. We'll not do that again. That's a long way to go out there to get the parts in there and bring it back in the same day. It took a toll that day, because we got to get it on there, unload it, come back, and then unload it to make sure that it's safe. But we did it, again, for the district's interest, and we had a timeline at that time. They wanted it done by a certain date, so we went and accomplished that, and then they said, well, no, now we don't want it there. So they've changed it several times on us, knowing where we wanted to do it originally, and it was the right place to do it. And now it's installed, so we have no issue anymore. Tennis courts. Unfortunately, it's also been on a standby, because they ran into an issue with the drainage district. District 3 is requesting for them, Hellas, to produce a drainage plan. Well, technically, for a tennis court, we're not putting any cement on the ground, we're not putting anything that is going to be heavy. Why would you need a drainage plan? Oh, and by the way, we already have one that goes into this, connected to our side. We already have one. So we send the plans to the project manager. Her name is Joanne Lozada. I think she presented here last time to you all. And send her that information, what we have, our plans, plus a drainage control. Well, they're not happy with it. I guess they want an updated one. In that original plan, we already had tennis courts already on our plans. So why they didn't accept it, is beyond me. But again, GDJ has a good working relationship with the drainage district. I think we'll be able to solve that. I've talked to the district before with our parking lot, surface parking lot, so I can go back and address that with them as well, Sonia, the actual manager of the district. Same thing that Mr. Palacios is doing. We're going to have to do the same thing and then come back to you after their board approves for us to be able to address the issues that we're having at the inlets at the facility that we're at, the UTEX facility that we're trying to complete. Those are plans that we got to give the district. Same thing that we got to do for Riverside. Now, that shouldn't be an issue. I think we will be able to rectify that shortly within the next week. So we'll continue to move on. Once they start working, they'll do a pour of cement. That's going to be a 30-day cure time. So we're thinking probably it's going to be a 2-week delay because of this at the most. And obviously, then we've got the holidays coming up here pretty soon, so I don't know if they're going to work on those days or not. I'm assuming they are, and if they do, then obviously there's only a 2-week loss for us. So 30 days for the cement to cure before they go and do everything else. They'll start working on the other stuff that they have now, which is the fencing. And if the drainage plan calls for us to do a drain from where we're at all the way where we have our retaining of water, our pond water, we'll go ahead and do that. It's not that far. I mean, again, it's solvable, so it's not an issue. We just need to be able to address it as a district, not necessarily the vendor, because if they do it, it's going to be costly, and we don't want them to do it. I know what the cost will be, very, very, very high, and I don't think it'll be $160,000. It'll be more than that. So we'll take care of that. Projects, I'm not going to cover all the projects on there. I think you can read those on your own. And if you have any questions with that, I'll go and highlight some of that. Let's go to the last, second to last slide. Before the, go back 3. Go before that, go to the 15, slide 15. There you go. Here's something that's as late as 9 in your packet that came in with what we discussed yesterday, and I wanted to incorporate it, and I forgot to incorporate it in there for you, which is sensory rooms. I was asked how can I help in this area. Painting was one of the areas we can do. For all these areas, for the different schools that they're asking for. La Paloma and Ed Downs will be the models for the district initially. So we'll be doing some painting, and blue being the color for autism. I think we'll be able to provide that service for our folks. We will work concurrently with them to go ahead and establish these different rooms for our district, and I think it's something that's good. And the goal that is to have 2 rooms originally just painted, so we need to get them before August. And I'll get those done before August. They'll cover the paint cost, we'll do the labor. And I think that's the funding that they have for us to do this. Again, sir? No, we don't have it in the packet. I'll add it and I'll send it to you because you don't have it in your packet. This was added later after I already prepared
And
it.
we currently do have sensory rooms, but we're updating them. That's we had sensory rooms
We do,
before.
ma'am. Yes, we do, but they wanted, and go to the next picture, please.
Yes, we're updating them, that's.
So this is what they intended to look once they're done. What I suggested was if they wanted to have different things, for example, the carpet, it's not going to be no carpet, by the way. It's going to be regular flooring. Again, going back to the COVID-19 part. So I recommended to Mr. Marquez, if he wanted flooring, we can do that. It's up to him. And again, I think it's something that's positive for the district. So we'll have these done way before August starts. And I think it'll serve that purpose for us. Anything else?
I have a question
Yes, sir.
in reference to these sensory rooms, and Ms. Bettis, this question is for you. I recall sensory rooms being part of a discussion as far as, I want to say during a committee meeting. So is there anything that went up before us that needed approval, or is this, like Ms. Rayon says, we're just updating what we have, or where is this coming from?
This this was not pre-approved or anything that had to do with anything that the board had asked for on the sensory rooms. This is most likely doing what we can with what we have. And what my interpretation of sensory rooms is the furniture and the equipment and the actual items that you can touch and sit in. So those are the things that I constitute as being part of the sensory room. So
And
these,
I agree, we're just working with the available space that we have, where we have it, and so then as far as, like you said, the furniture, the anything that's needed to provide for the students that need those accommodations or those places.
correct.
Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
And the paint is just an additional for that purpose. And that concludes unless you have some other questions, I'll provide you the last two slides. I'll forward them to you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rayon, have you gotten a chance to visit these sensory rooms?
I have not seen, I'm sorry. I have not seen these sensory rooms, as I guess they're still under development. I know that I haven't walked into a sensory room currently. I do know that before I left the district, we had purchased many items for all our sensory rooms. And so that's why I came to the conclusion that we're building on what we already have. Here I can see they're making it more aesthetically pleasing. And I guess by changing the floor, it's just more sanitary than having the carpet. I'm sure we're going to have throw carpets, because I know, or throw rugs, because I know the kids get down on the floor, or the mats, like the mat you showed on here. So it's just updating that. I'll sit with Mr. Perez and get more details on that, but more importantly, we'll talk to the principals and see what their needs are, or maybe they already have. Have you talked to them about them, Ms. Alvarado? No, okay.
It was a discussion brought up with some of the equipment that we had that we needed to put into these rooms to be, so they can become sensory rooms. That's what I was with the understanding.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.